My first day in the mountains started like most other days.
I woke up and I found myself sipping coffee in the beautiful mountains of southern Uganda.
When I finished my coffee, I decided to go for a walk.
Along my walk, I saw many banana trees. One of the trees had tiny green bananas and tiny yellow flowers. I saw a worm.
Did it bite you?
One of the ways that Uganda and the United States are different is the earthworms in Uganda are bigger than the earthworms in the United States. I walked some more and I saw a butterfly. I saw some monkeys with golden colored fur.
And I even saw a chameleon.
As I climbed the mountain, it started to rain, so I put on my coat. So I was walking up the mountain, and then I tripped. And all of a sudden, the whole world started spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning. And eventually, I woke up. And when I woke up, I found myself in the middle of the tropical rainforest of Bwindi National Park. And I found myself with a group of researchers and trackers searching for mountain gorillas. And since I knew very little about mountain gorillas, thankfully I had an expert guide. Enos has been studying gorillas for many years under some of the top biologists in the world. This year, he's contributing to the gorilla census, where he and other wildlife researchers are trying to count all of the remaining mountain gorillas in Uganda, Rwanda, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. That's the only places in the world where the mountain gorillas still live.
There are around 6 teams,
Okay.
which go in at once.
Yes.
Every team spending 14 days in the forest.
And one of the ways that scientists learn more about the gorillas is by looking carefully at the gorilla poop, otherwise known as the gorilla dung. The dung can be used for understanding the age of the different members of the group, and it can also be used for understanding the health of the members of the group.
By measuring the dung diameter, for example, you find the silverbacks are ranging above 7 centimeters, with the infants being around 0 to 3 centimeters. Then in that, when you try estimate the age by opening the dung, of which the old dung could be having maybe dung beetles, and for that you don't collect for maybe parasites or.
The researchers collect samples of the dung, keep it in jars, and then examine it carefully under a microscope. Learning about gorillas by examining their dung is really, really interesting. And it was one of the most fascinating things that Enos explained to me about his job. After learning so much about the dung, however, I found myself thinking, I wonder if I could learn a little bit more about the gorillas by observing the gorillas. The guides also thought it was a good time to learn about the gorillas. However, learning about the gorillas by observing them can be quite challenging because finding the gorillas can be quite challenging. The Bwindi impenetrable forest is called impenetrable because the trees and the leaves and other vegetation grow very, very thick. And if I had to do this myself, I'm sure I never would have found the gorillas. Thankfully, I had some help.
The expert trackers.
The trackers watch the gorillas all day, watch where they sleep, and are ready to help the guides find the gorillas in the morning.
Trace the trail out where they ate yesterday. There are some signs we follow when we are following them. We look at the broken branches, the bent vegetation. Right here you see the vegetation is down. We see where it is bending, heading. We follow that direction, we shall as well be seeing the leftovers, what they were feeding on yesterday and this morning. Then the poo. As well, we listen. We have to listen carefully. We may hear them making noise somewhere or hear them breaking branches somewhere. So those are the few signs we follow when we are trying to locate these animals. So we all participate. We want to see, we want to enjoy the experience. So from here we shall follow a trail that will lead us to where the nests are, where they slept last night. Then from the nests, we follow the morning's trail, this morning's trail, that will take us to the gorillas.
At first, the gorillas were far away, but then, after a while, they let us get closer. After getting a closer look, one of the first things I noticed was that gorillas look a lot like you and me. They have 2 arms and 2 legs. Their bodies are covered with hair. 5 fingers, and 5 toes on each arm or leg. And even though they're often hunched over, using their hands or knuckles for balance, just like people, gorillas can walk on 2 feet.
Don't run.
Okay.
Their arms, their legs, their hands, their feet, the way they walk. Those aren't the only things that make gorillas like people. Like people, gorillas are mammals. Their bodies are covered with hair. They give birth and they care for live young. And the mommies feed the babies with milk from the mommy's body. After spending a little more time with the gorillas, we were able to observe what the gorillas eat. Help me a little. What are the things that you noticed the gorillas eating?
According to research, golden monkeys and the gorillas, they share 14 plants in Mugahinga here, including this one. Change
Oh, wow.
get on that and get proteins from it. This is an ant's nest, and they are called the black cocktailed ants. So this is the meat for the golden monkeys, and the same as meat for the gorillas. When you want to get protein from meat, you just come for this.
This was certainly interesting. I think the younger gorilla was eating insects off the older gorilla's back. And this one seemed to be eating seeds or flowers. After making lots of observations on my own, my guide was able to tell me more about the things the gorillas were eating.
They were eating this.
Okay. Oh, so this is very exciting. So that means the gorillas could be pollinators.
Yeah, so the whole of plant is called plantasia, and it is one of the succulent plants they eat, which acts as a source of food and source of water That's why being a succulent plant, it provides a lot of water for the animals, especially gorillas. And that's why they were feeding on it. So it works, it's a multiple plant, especially to the gorillas. When it is flowering, they feed on these other seeds I have shown you.
Yes.
These ones. And some other times they break the stem, then they start removing the outer part, then they eat the innermost part, which is very soft for them. And when it is still at its younger age, they feed on leaves.
Even though there's so much to learn about gorillas as individuals, perhaps the most interesting thing about gorillas is that they always live in groups, and they always live in families. Some families are small, with just a few gorillas, and other families are large, with over a dozen gorillas. With all of the families, the adults look out for the children to keep them safe. And the children watch their parents to learn what to do.
Both about the advantages of protecting this forest. So you've really done a very fabulous thing by hiring reporters. Also, thank you for choosing Windy to be your best destination. I know there are some gorillas in Rwanda, in Congo, so you made the best decision to come here.
There is so much more that I'd like to explore about the mountain gorillas of Uganda. Perhaps, though, the most important thing for us to remember is that gorillas are depending on humans to respect them, to respect their space, to respect their land. With only about 1,000 mountain gorillas left in the world, if humans don't respect them, someday soon, there may be no more mountain gorillas. And when we think of protecting gorillas, we must also remember that gorillas are helping people.
It was an amazing experience and we appreciate it. Congratulations goes to...
Each year, thousands of tourists visit Uganda to visit the gorillas. And when they do, the tourists provide jobs to hundreds and hundreds of people. The guides, the scientists, the porters, the drivers to get the tourists to the forest, the hotels for tourists to stay, the accountants and business managers to keep the hotel running, the staff to keep the hotels clean,
the craft shops to sell souvenirs to the tourists? And the artists who build the crafts. Weave the baskets. And sew the clothing. And many, many more.
So, my friends, I hope you enjoyed learning about my latest adventure in Uganda, learning about the mountain gorillas, learning about the people who work with the gorillas, and learning all the ways that the gorillas are helping people and people are helping gorillas. With these partnerships between the animals and the people, between the people of Uganda and the people all over the world, hopefully someday the gorillas will keep growing and the gorillas will always be here for you to visit.